Welcome to the exclusive. I'm your host, Sharon Tharp. I'm back here with an episode 5 recap for the Traitors season 2. And I'm super excited to be joined by my friend. She's a Big Brother legend. She's a Traitors alum. So she's the perfect person to talk to about this. And I'm really excited to hear her thoughts. Rachel Reilly. Rachel, welcome back. How are
Hi!
you?
Oh, I'm so excited to be on again and chatting about. I think this has become my favorite reality show. Honestly, it's so good. The psychological aspect of it is so fun, and they always have something up their sleeve. Like, I don't know what production's gonna do.
I
It's like
know. I know.
they stepped it up this season. I love that you can like go for your own shield. I think that that's such a big advantage. If it was me, I would have been there every week like Janelle. Like, I
Yeah,
don't care if people call me selfish. Like, I'm sorry. If you're not there, then guess what? You don't win the money. It's like,
exactly.
yeah. So, I mean, I think she's doing great personally.
Yes, and this was like the perfect episode to have you on for because obviously we lose Janelle, which we'll talk about, and then Kate comes in. There's just a lot of Big Brother drama we got to talk about. Um,
Yeah.
but first, like, are you liking all celebs, or you like? Do you wish your season was all celebs, or did you like half and half?
I wish my season was all celebs. I did like half and half. I like the new people. I like the idea of having
Yeah,
the new, like Michael was a really fun character. I thought Andy was a great character. Shelby, but the problem is that I felt like a lot of the new people didn't know how to play the game. They weren't really sure how to play any game, and I think that that really did us a disservice as faithfuls. It made it really hard. However,
yeah.
I do see like the Kevins of it, right? Like the Cheries of it on this season. It's like Kevin is a reality person, and so is Cherie, and both of them have the worst reads. It's like, I don't know. Like, even with us, we had Kate and Brandy, who Brandy was really like, she was on it. She was really on to the Traitors, and I think if she stayed around, we would have caught them more quickly. But like, it just, I guess it could be all celebs, and they just have no clue either. Let's
Yeah, yeah,
put
that's
all
true.
gamers in there.
I know. Okay, well, so Janelle's on the cast, Dan's on the cast, Big Brother alum. You're
Oh my
close
god.
with Janelle. You've
Yeah.
already done the show. I'm assuming she called you. What sort of advice did you give her?
I actually I told Janelle that I can't give her any advice. I was like, it's such a crazy show. I was like, if you can be a traitor, you should try to be a traitor. That's the best
Yep.
advice I can give her. Because I think being a traitor does have its advantages in this game. We haven't really seen the end of this season yet, so I don't know how it ends up. But I really always kind of feel like the traitors, they know what's going on. They're in every episode, like at the forefront of what's happening. So I mean, if you could be a traitor, it's like, why wouldn't you be a traitor? But the rest of it, I just don't know even how to give people advice on this show because, well, first of all, production is giving us a totally different traders than I played. So it's a totally
Hmm.
different show. But then also, it's just such a hard, like, you have to navigate, being a little bit of a target, but not being too much of a target because you don't want to get banished. But you want the traders to keep you around because you don't want to get murdered. And then you have to like figure out who the traders are, but you can't tell them who you think they are because if you think one is a traitor and you want to work with them, then you have to make sure you can work with them. So it's just like there's so many like mental games that you have to play. I mean, I that's basically kind of what I told her. I told her as much as I could, but I was like, I don't think I can give you advice.
It's tough. And like they change things up and you're right. Like the traders have an advantage. So um but okay, so before we like go through the episode, did you know and do you know anyone else on the cast? I'm just have you ever crossed paths with Dan or talked to Dan?
Yeah, yeah. So I know Dan, obviously. I've definitely talked to Dan a lot, just through Big Brother stuff and alumni stuff that we all kind of like, get in groups about. Where I think the Big Brother community as a whole, we all kind of talk,
Yeah.
especially people that have like been at the forefront of the Big Brother face of the show for so long. Like there's just a lot of history there. So I definitely have talked to Dan. I've met Dan before. I've talked to Sandra. I've met Sandra a lot. I love Sandra. Like she's one of my favorite Survivor players. Poverty is someone I've always like been obsessed with. So
Yeah.
like she's just to me flawless. And I'm so glad she's a traitor. I think she's a great person for them to recruit. But I also think she makes Phaedra the third wheel. I think it was really smart for Dan for Dan's game, but I think Phaedra needs someone more on her side than on the CBS side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think she probably didn't think it through because it was the beginning of the game, but well, we can just jump into it. We come back from the cliffhanger. Parvin and Phaedra are kind of going at it.
Yes.
It seems like it was resolved really quickly. I feel like we didn't see everything because it was like all of a sudden Phaedra's fine and Phaedra's trying to vote out Tamra. Or murder Tamra. What happened there?
I don't get that. So I think there must have been some talk, and I wonder, I would love for you to ask Phaedra when you interview her what was going through her mind, because Dan, when she watches this episode, and I think we might see it at the reunion, Dan and Poverty are going for her. Like, they want a target on her to take the pressure off of them. So Phaedra, she's the traitor that we all needed, that we didn't know we needed. Like, she's so fun to watch. She's so good. She's so great at narrating these things. I don't think it was in her best interest to murder Tamra. I think, again, she's getting pushed by Poverty and Dan, putting too much trust in them. And Poverty and Dan are a little bit over gaming. And I think we'll probably see that come to fruition in the next few episodes. I don't know. Again, haven't seen anything but episode 5, but I just see from the way that, like, I know how these games work. It just looks like Poverty and Dan are over game. They're doing it too quick. It's the thing about Traitors is, like, it is like, as much as you have to play the game so quickly and be present every moment, you also have to think about that end game. So I don't know.
Yeah. We'll I wonder if they like somehow convinced Phaedra, like, well, if you got rid of a housewife, it would be like all suspicion would be off you, because like, why would you ever do that? Like, I'm wondering. Yeah, I just wish we saw the conversations.
Yeah, I agree with you. That had to have been what they said, but I don't think it was a good idea. Do you?
I mean, I don't know yet, but I know it benefits Dan and Parvati more than it benefits her right now. So
yeah,
it's tough. And Dan even says, he's like, I can't win this game with Phaedra in the conclave. So like,
right.
And I think the preview we see, Dan's about to take his shot, and I have to imagine it's at Phaedra. I could be wrong, but like, yeah, it's the Traitors are about to be blown up for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that Tamra, I don't think would go against Phaedra. I think Phaedra could talk Tamra out of voting for her, whereas I don't think Poverty or Dan have Tamra's vote. So it's like, murdering her was really risky.
Yeah. Do you have a eulogy for Tamra? We didn't see actually that much of her.
No.
Like she got a little bit of screen time, like when she was poking fun at Kevin, which was fun, but like we really didn't see much of her.
No, I know. It was so sad. I feel like you don't see a lot of we didn't really get to see a lot of the people that are getting banished or getting murdered so early on. And that's the thing about this game. There's 2 people going home every single week. So It's like everyone just goes so quick. You don't really get to know them.
Yeah, and so Tamra obviously gets murdered, and at the breakfast is interesting because this is where Dan gets really a lot of heat. Peter's like, Dan's a traitor. This is when CT just is like, Dan, you got to start saying names. And then Janelle is like, guys, it's so freaking obvious. And I thought that Janelle knew Dan was a traitor, but do you assume Janelle knew from the beginning and was just trying to work with him as best she could?
I think
what happened here?
Yeah, I think she knew the very beginning. I think she knew right away. I think probably is similar to what happened with Cody, where it was like, I knew Cody right away was a traitor. I had to convince everyone he was a traitor, but then also I thought I could work with him, you know?
Yep.
Like a little bit of that suspicion with me and Suri. Like, is she a traitor? Well, I don't care because I know that she has my back. But with the Dan and Janelle doesn't know that Dan has her back. So I think it's hard because then it's like, well, does he have my back or is he going to come for me? And if you don't know that, then it's like, you might as well take your shot.
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot because you're friends with Janelle, but I have to assume that Janelle tried to talk to Dan or they had some sort of conversation before the game, but maybe not because Dan's been out of the game for, 10 years now. Maybe he doesn't want to do any pre-gaming, but like, I thought they were good enough where they'd be like, even if one of us is a traitor, like, let's just try to work together as best we can kind of vibe. Like, even if it was unspoken or something. I don't know.
She didn't say that to me, like that she knew that they were going to be on the show together or anything. So I don't even know if she knew that they would be on the show together. But then also, like, the problem is I feel the same way about Dan. Like, I don't know if I would fully trust him. Like, if you're playing a game
You
with
can't.
Dan, it's like it's Dan. So can you really trust him? I mean, he is probably one of the best Big Brother players ever.
Yeah, I get it. Because, like, you're right. At some point, he's going to cut you. So it's a matter of, like, do you get him first or does he get you first? So I totally get where Janelle's coming from. I just wonder if it was too early.
Yes.
But it's hard to tell with the editing, like, who threw out whose name first. Like, we see Janelle just throw out Dan. But then Dan was planting seeds too. I don't know. It was tough to tell who actually kind of threw the first punch or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, well, and I know I talked to Janelle, and I think you'll probably interview Janelle too, but I know she said that there was something about like some Ek and Sue drama that we didn't really see, and that like pushed her. They didn't really edit, or they didn't really show us the Ek and Sue drama that happened after the poisoning. So I think that, like, she said that had a lot to do with pushing her toward Dan versus like trying to work with him more.
Okay, this makes more sense because I knew we were missing pieces to this story.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens when you have, 21 people on a cast of like all reality people. It's like, how much screen time do you give who? And but yeah, I was bummed because I'm like, there's another story here. Like, where did this like all of a sudden come from? But as a Big Brother fan, it was like, it's so fun entertainment wise, but it also like killed me inside because they're two of my favorite players,
I know, me too. I know, and I want them to work together and like make it, but then I know also like they're totally he's a traitor, she's a faithful, like they're going after each other anyways. So it's like it comes down to that whole thing where like, do you work with the traitors if you're faithful? Because in the end, the traitor is going to take it if the one traitor is there. So it's just like, it's hard. You can't really work with, you have to like take shots at each other sometimes. So it's just like, who's going to go first and who has the most influence, which we saw that I guess Dan has it good with those Bravo girls. Cause
since
like,
when though?
Right?
This is so random.
I cannot understand. I don't understand why MJ and all the Bravo girls would go and tell Dan. Like, that just is like blowing my mind, because I felt like they would have been more working with Janelle and wanting to work with her. It didn't even seem like they thought Janelle was a traitor. They just wanted to tattletale to her to Dan. It just felt like, it didn't feel like it was game. It felt like they wanted to like get in good with Dan. And so that makes me just feel like they're bad gamers. I mean, honestly.
It was weird for MJ too, since MJ's been on the Dan train since day one. So I'm like, why would you go to Dan about Janelle? But I also kind of think it must be related to like how hard, I guess, Janelle went for Larsa. Maybe they took that personally and were like, never mind, we don't like Janelle anymore. I don't know. It was really weird.
That would make sense, because maybe because MJ and Larsa they were all really close with Larsa. So and then Tamara goes home, and Tamara was like the leader of that group too. And I know Tamara and Janelle had a relationship. So possibly, you're right. If everyone's gone that they have relationships with, then they probably start to like look at Janelle. But yeah, I don't understand why they went to Dan. And you have that information in these games. Why do you share it with people? Like, that was the thing too with Peter, we see. So I don't understand why he shares the information about the shield with any of the traitors. But also, why did the traitors allow themselves to be on a team with 6 people in the house when they could have been outside? I think that was really bad gameplay for them. Because one of them needed to be outside to find out who had that shield.
I was thinking the same thing. So as we get into the mission here, if you play outside, you have a chance to get a shield. Dan and Parv kind of sat back, and to me, I'm like, you look more like a traitor. Like, at least try to be like, no, I need the shield. Like, I didn't love that move either.
And also, I thought it was really silly because if it's everyone's fighting to be outside, and then you notice like all the other traitors are inside, one of the traitors needs to be fighting to be with that outside group. Even if it wasn't Dan, they need to like give each other a look or something. But like the fact that they allowed all three of them to be inside was really bad. That was a really bad game move. And Dan
Yeah.
and Poverty know better. Like Phaedra, maybe she doesn't get it, but like Dan and Poverty, they know better because they know that you can't let your opponent have all the like intel, right? I mean, that's like these game, like any strategy game 101.
Yeah. I think it seemed like it was just like such a quick decision and people were that like, but yes, they should have thought this through or tried to like signal each other or something because this just, it left them very vulnerable to like, well, we'll see, they get it wrong. But yeah, so we have Kevin and Sheree outside. They can't read any maps. He wants the shield. She wants the money. I don't know what's going on there. Janelle and Peter get lost trying to get their shields. I like that little duo. That was cute though. And and then Bergie and Trishelle both got the shield and seemed to bank the most money. So they actually impressed me, Bergie and Trishelle.
I think they killed this competition. Like they got the money first. They played it really well. They played it very smart. They got the money. Then they went to get the shield. So I think like by doing that, it doesn't look like they're not trying to get money for the group. So the Traitors really don't have to put a target on them. But then like they get the shield anyways. And then I do love that the Traitors didn't tell. I feel like that was like a really good strategy that we did on season 1 where you don't tell who has the shield because then the Traitors are like, I don't know, we have to murder someone from in here. So I think we'll see what happens, but I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah, so tell me, like, what are you thinking about Peter? Are you impressed with him? Are you like, okay, let's see, because that was his idea, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I think Peter's trying.
Yeah.
At first, I didn't really think he was like into it. I was just confused if he just thought he was on The Bachelor still. But like, he's trying. So he's definitely trying to be strategic. He feels like a faithful to me, to the point where I think he's going to do himself a disservice because that might put a target for him to get murdered. But like, he is doing he's trying to do a good strategy. He's trying to tell the right people. Well, as we see, so we bounce around, sorry. But as we see with when Poverty is like, if he told you, Dan, and then he told me, he's obviously lying. And it's like, that's the first thing I would think too. Because why would you, and especially if he is like, is he really close to Poverty? Is he close to Dan? Like, he should have only told one of them. Then they would have that intel miss, and then he would have known however it got back to them, which would have given them a clue. But he told like everyone. I mean, like, he told way too many people, which makes me think that like, even though he had a good idea, he didn't execute it correctly.
Well, we will see that like Dan doesn't think Peter's that savvy, even though Parv's like, Peter was definitely lying. And that was a bad read too, because now they're about to block the Bergie vote. Which is, Dan, I love you, but what are you doing?
Right. I think Dan is getting too scared. I think like he's at the point in the game where he's starting to get a lot of heat and he's not used to that. And I think that he's making bad game moves because of it. Like, I think instead of him thinking clearly, I guarantee if everyone wasn't saying Dan's name, he probably would say, oh yeah, you're right, we need to get someone inside. But because he's getting heat, I think he's so scared, he wants to knock out whoever he can that's coming after him.
Yeah, and you know what? We're used to, like Dan even said, he was like, he does his best work when his back's up against the wall, which is usually true in the Big Brother house. But yeah, I wonder if he just kind of sort of got off on the wrong foot. As a traitor, you have to immediately start lying. You don't have time to get your bearings. And I think for whatever reason, he's just been playing catch up ever since because he has a target on his back. So yeah, it's just like these little mistakes.
Yeah, you can't play Traitors like how you play Big Brother. And I also think that the biggest thing with Dan, I mean, he hasn't played in 10 years. So he's getting his bearings back into the reality competition game anyways. And then he goes in and he's doing great as a traitor the first few days. And then he's probably starting to catch up with him, where he's like, oh gosh, it's a totally different game. So
Mm,
you can't just sit back and not talk to people, because that's not how the game works. Like, it works
mm,
on Big Brother for him to do that, but like, we're not playing Big Brother.
yeah. Also, so before the round table, we see, Janelle, MJ rats out Janelle to Dan. They're sort of, even Parv is like, wait, Janelle's coming after you? Huh?
Yeah.
Like, Parv is confused. She's like, isn't that your
Yeah.
girl? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Um,
That was a, I think that that's going to do them in, just like when me and Cody came after each other. We should have had each other's backs. And I think that that affects both of us, because the thing is like, you don't have anyone in there that's in your like 100% alliance. So you need to like, you don't know who's a traitor, who's a faithful. So you always have to have someone where you kind of trust them a little bit. If they're a traitor, hopefully they're not going to murder you. If they're faithful, then like, you have to work together to get the traitors out. So it's like, you going against each other is definitely Janelle's downfall for Dan, right? Like,
mhm.
that's why Janelle goes home, because people are just like, oh, it's either Dan or Janelle, and like, let's get out Janelle this week. So I don't
Do you
understand how, though, because if I was on that game, if I was playing that game and Janelle's going for the shield so aggressively, I'm going to think she's a faithful. So I don't understand why.
she looks like a total faithful. Like,
A
come on.
total faithful. She looks, yeah, I feel like the conversation she has, the way that she's playing the game, she doesn't seem like she's a traitor at all. Like, she doesn't,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, she's not throwing out people's names to the point where she's like just accusing random people for all these different things. Like, and I also feel like she's playing a very faithfully game, where she's like trying to figure out the traitors, whereas like some of these other people, maybe they don't understand that. I don't know. The Bravo
Yeah,
people don't play competition shows.
fair. You know who did impress me a little bit, and he made some good points tonight? Bergie. So he even said, he was like, if Janelle were a traitor, why would she just keep, leading the charge on wrong names and risk banishment anyway? Like, she's causing chaos. The traitors clearly like that. Like, he was making good points, I thought, tonight.
I think
Yeah.
Bergie impresses me every week. And I'm surprised, because I didn't think on Love Island he was like, he's so likable, but he didn't seem like he was really playing that game. It's a little competition game too. But I am impressed with him. Like,
Hmm.
I enjoy watching him, and I think he's saying the right things. And I think but again, Bergie to me screams faithful. So I feel like you do need a little heat, because the traitors murder someone every night. It's
Yes.
like, you need a little heat. So I don't know. I think when you're
Yeah.
so obvious, like a Marcus, that's when people start to go after you. And Marcus got murdered, and so it's just like, you need a little heat. Peter and Bergie, with they're so obviously faithfuls.
Yep. I thought Janelle was in that group too. I'm like, to
I
me, it's so obvious. I think Dan also was probably like, it's pretty obvious Janelle's a faithful, but I'm throwing her
Yeah.
under the bus anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. Don't Dan loves it. I think when you're a trader, you probably love anytime that your name doesn't come up.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the roundtable and let's get this out of the way first, because it was a weird episode for Kate to enter. Like, do we know why it was like, why now? Why put her in the game now? I wonder what the reasoning, I guess, was behind that.
I don't know. The only thing I could think is that because Deontay left, maybe, but like, I don't know. I asked Sandra yesterday when I talked to her, and she said that Deontay left, and that they enjoyed having him in the game, but that it was his time to go. That's basically
Hmm.
what she said. So I don't know if that's why Kate came. I assume like she probably had already been called, because I can't
Yeah.
imagine them calling her last minute and being like, hey, can you be in the UK tomorrow?
Yeah. With like a newborn. Like,
Right.
as far as
Exactly.
I know, she knew that she was going the whole time. So I wonder
That's what I
if
would think.
she was supposed to maybe start with the cast, or something happened, or they just were like, you know what, we'll throw you mid game. I was just happy they at least made her a faithful, because I feel like it would have been a way too advantage, like, to
Yeah.
come in as a traitor mid game.
No, I agree. I assume she probably knew she was going. And then I think that they probably had planned for her to come in. I think they probably thought it would be like like a big like woo twist, you
Yeah.
know. I don't know that the cast cares that much.
Well,
I also would assume that Kate came in as a faithful if I'm playing that game, because I'm going to assume, like you, it's too much of an advantage to make her a traitor.
yeah.
Um, and I mean, like, I feel like Kate needs Rachel in there to be able to be fun.
I was gonna say, so what are you guys? Are you guys good? I know you're not like best friends, but like, what are your thoughts on Kate and where do you guys stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kate is really funny, and but I think she needs that catalyst, and I'm the happy catalyst.
I
So
love it.
listen, if you want to put Kate on your show together, I think it'll be way more fun.
Yes.
I do think Kate is good television, but I think she does need like the ammunition. So I think we'll see what happens, because she's going to be in there with like mostly people she knows, or Bravo people. So
Yeah.
it's like, I wonder if she's going to have the same kind of story arc as she had on the Traitors with Us. Also, she's played it before, so she probably should be a little bit better at the game. You would think, maybe. I don't know. I
We'll
hear
see.
we'll see.
She voted for a faithful, but yeah, she was going off not
Yeah.
much information. What
But
did you
she
think
did make
about?
a good point. She did make a good point. She said, I learned on Big Brother, you go with the first thing you do is go with the group. And it's true. If she came
Yep.
in and didn't vote with the group when she already knew that that was how the vote was going, or she didn't know, but I think she probably could understand that's how the vote
Sense.
was going. That makes the most sense, especially because she comes in as a faithful. If she votes for Dan, then automatically has a target on herself. She had to go
Yeah.
with the group. So
I did love.
she's making strides as a gamer.
Yeah,
Good job.
I did love when she was like, and you win everything to Dan. I was like, oh. Dan, don't call her out because she'll come back at you.
That was great. Yeah.
Um, wait, so the other thing I want to ask, how did you think about the Kate and Kevin interaction when he was like, Kate, like, because she was interrupting him or something? Kevin's
Oh my,
very sensitive.
I was dying. I was like, do not pull that on Kate. Like, Kevin, you're in trouble. But she didn't go after him. So, I mean, I think maybe she's coming in and trying to like read the room first
Yep.
before she starts to do her Kate stuff. But like, I mean, even me going in, I think I would have to go in. You can't just like go in and come in with a big bang, or you're gonna go home. So you need to kind of come in and read the room. She knows she's a faithful. I mean, she might. I wonder if she thinks she's safe from murder that night. I don't know. Like they didn't tell us that she's safe from murder, so
Oh yeah.
she can't really go in and just be like, okay, I'm gonna get murdered tonight.
Good point.
So
Good point.
yeah,
All right, so I want to talk about what Janelle says because this is where I think Janelle might have went a little wrong. Is so she calls out Dan, which I think is fine at this point.
yeah,
It's her versus Dan, but she also calls out CT and Sandra, and you don't call out Sandra because you know she will go after you. So I was like,
yeah.
no, don't say Sandra. If she just said Dan, she might have been able to sway another vote or two. But I feel like once she went for Sandra, it was like done. What
Yeah,
did
see,
you
I
think?
also kind of felt like once she went for CT, it was done, because CT was like, all this time I had your back.
True.
And I think if she said she thought if she had to name traitors and call people out, and she's like, Dan and Sandra. But then the fact that she was like, it's Dan, Sandra, CT, I do think CT believed her. And I think CT might have voted for, I think it's just, the thing is like when you start just calling everyone's name out, it does make you more guilty. It seems like you're more guilty, because at that point you're just trying to save yourself.
True. I was surprised CT voted for Janelle because CT had suspected Dan too this episode. So
Right.
I was like,
That's
but
what I think. Like, she would have needed to plant more concrete evidence against Dan, not go after CT, maybe not go after Sandra, and then just like get everyone's like, hey, remember that time when Dan did this? Hey, remember that time when Dan did that? I don't know how much time they have in the turret, or sorry, not in the turret, in the round tables, but we had there was definitely times when we would be talking in the middle. Alan would be like, time's up, and you're just like,
Mm,
no. So it's not like you have the whole night. They don't just give you all the time you want.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also it was interesting. Peter was like, we're friends, Dan, but I think it's you. And I'm like, since when are you guys friends? They also have
Yeah.
not shown Peter and Dan as friends. I don't
At
know.
all. No. I've seen them in the same room together, but like I haven't seen them being friends. But then also, like, again, like you said, there's 21 people, so I'm wondering if
Yeah.
they're just like having a hard time, showing all the relationships.
I
Um,
think I think Dan's smart enough to know that Peter seems to be smart enough and have a little bit of influence that he needs to buddy up to him a little bit. And so I suspect that's what happened after the first episode or two. Dan was like, all right, I need to befriend Peter.
that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, and I think I've seen them playing pool, and so that's how the guys bond.
Okay.
They go to the pool room and play pool. We girls go in the wine room and drink wine.
Yeah, that's what I would be doing.
Yeah,
Maybe in the wine
exactly.
room. Okay, so when we get to this big Dan versus Janelle at the round table, it's typical Janelle being so like boisterous and fun and like
Yeah,
going after him, and it's typical Dan being like, "What?" Like just like
I
sitting back.
know.
What were you thinking? What was Janelle thinking in that moment? Do you think she's like, he's obviously a traitor?
I think Janelle was just trying to like go just like get him because like I don't know how you could sit in that room with all those people and assume that anyone thinks Dan's not a traitor. They've been talking about him being a traitor since like the very beginning. So like she probably thought she was making great points, you know?
And I think she was to an extent. I
She
just
definitely
think also Dan obviously he had the two traitors on his side, at least at this point he does. So that kind of
yeah.
helped. I'm sure that they did some work for him a little bit, at least Parvati did.
Yeah. Well,
But
and then
I
Kevin is doing work for him when Kevin's like, Janelle, I said if you would have if Larsa was right, I would have thought you were faithful, but apparently you were wrong. It's like Kevin, like the people, like the traders are getting the faithfuls to work for them without even knowing it. You know what I mean? Like they don't even have to
Yeah.
try. And then of
Kevin's
course,
reads
like
aren't the best.
no, Kevin's reached and Cherie too, the same thing. She's just like, well, I
Yeah.
think the whole time I thought you were a traitor, Janelle, because you're going after this and you're doing that. And it's just like, oh, because I think Janelle had CT, Trishelle, Peter, and Bergie. She would have just needed to convince a few more people, but like I think those other people would have needed to stand up for her more in the roundtable. We're not seeing the people standing up for their people in the roundtable like we saw on season 1. I know to like when, for example, like when Kyle went, me and Stephanie were like, Kyle is definitely not doing that. This is, you, Cody, or whatever. So I think we're not seeing that as much. Maybe a little bit last week with the Larsa one, but like this one, nobody was really. Bergie said one thing about Janelle, but just that one thing isn't going to really sway the rest of the table.
That's a good point. And also, actually, another thing that Bergie said that I thought was smart, he said, because when Dan called out Janelle, like, yeah, I'm saying Janelle, and Bergie's like, so the whole time your one big thing is your number
Yeah.
one ally is a traitor. Like,
Yes, that's so
he's like,
true. Yeah. So it just doesn't make any sense. But nobody, I feel like they just didn't listen to Bergie as much.
yeah, I think people are just like, oh, it's just Bergie, kind of
Right.
like,
No, you're probably right. Yeah, I think you're right. And that's the problem with like when you get into that, like, the rest of the group thinks of you like that. Cause then the
mhm,
rest of the time people are going to think that, but he probably
yeah.
won't get because of that, which is good.
Um, I did love just the dramatics of Dan being like, I was blinded by our friendship. You led, I defended you. I can't trust you anymore. You're either a traitor or a faithful I can't trust. I mean, he was like almost near tears, and I was like, I was living for it, to be honest.
I
It
know
was fun.
it was Dan's funeral 2.0, right? It was like literally, I mean, when he said that, I was just like blinded by her friendship. You're trying to get rid of her since day 1. Oh, and I think Dan would have murdered her more quickly if it would have benefited him. So I just think like that it's so funny that he said he was blinded by her friendship.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm assuming he said that for the group, like as an act. Like, I
Of
don't
course.
think it's actually
Yeah.
true, but
No, I think it was definitely just the act. But it was, I mean, that might have been one of the things that did get the people also on his side more.
true. That's true. It didn't help Janelle for sure.
No.
But we got to talk real quick about Janelle versus Sandra. You know, two of the most outspoken reality TV queens. I love them both. This
Me
was
too.
just, as much as I hate seeing two women I love like fight against each other, it was amazing TV. I mean, you're a traitor, bitch. You're the
Yeah.
biggest fucking traitor here. Fuck off. Like, it's like, whoa.
I was dying. Well, and I think it's funny because neither one of them had like any reason to say that. They were just like, just you're a traitor, you're a traitor. And it's like, okay.
But is there some part of you that's also like, Janelle and Sandra know how to make good TV too? Like, it's fun.
100%. They are so good at making good television that, and they know when to say it, they know when they don't need to say it, they know when, like Janelle's roundtable reminded me a lot of, like, reminded of my roundtable. Like when they were voting for me, I would just like, everyone that put my name up, I had something to say to them. Everyone that, like, I just like, I mean, I think Alan told me to like stop talking probably 10 times during my roundtable. But like, that's so far the only roundtable I've seen that reminded me of my roundtable, that was like Janelle's talking up for herself. She, instead of just like sitting back and like, okay, cool, you banished me, she's like, no, you're not, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're wrong, you're a traitor.
Yep.
Like, I loved it. I love watching it. That's why we love Janelle and we keep coming back to watch her on TV.
Yeah. I was bummed to see her go like this early. Like, just
Oh,
my big brother people, I wanted her to stay longer.
me
But
too.
she went out with like a blazing glory a little bit, so
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yes.
Um, Meanwhile, Dan, he's still not out of the hot water, because he said, this is an exact quote: "I've won a season of Big Brother. I resurrected from my own funeral, and that round table was harder than both of those things combined."
Yeah. So
I don't
I
know if
think
that's
he's
hyperbole,
realizing it's
but
hard to be a traitor.
I
I
mean,
wonder I wonder if Dan called Cody before to talk to Cody about it. Cause I mean, I didn't know Dan was gonna be on the show until like they announced it, right? Like, it was always a
yep.
rumor, but I didn't talk to Dan. So I'm wondering if Dan called Cody or if Dan probably didn't pregame at all. But like, I wonder if he did call Cody and now he can be like, Cody, oh my God, you're right. It's so hard to be a traitor. Like, they all think it's gonna be easy.
I know. The thing is, like, he might have called him, but I also, and I don't know Dan personally, but I feel like he's more of like a rule follower, so I don't know how much pre-gaming he actually would do.
Yeah,
You know what I
true.
mean?
Probably right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's probably where the disconnect with Janelle came in, is that they probably didn't talk much, but like assumed they were good, and just it wasn't enough to keep it, I don't know, afloat. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, so Dan has a lot of pressure right now because everyone's like, Dan, like, you have to take a shot. Even the traitors are like, Dan, who do you want to take a shot at? And he won't tell them. And I'm like, Dan, you have to say somebody. Like,
I
what's
know.
going
I don't know
on?
why. There's got to be somebody in there that he could have just like. See, this is the thing. I, the whole time, when, even when I didn't think Kate was a traitor, I put it on Kate, because to be
Yeah.
honest, like, it's easier to just have someone to put it on, and you're saying that you're going after that person, than it is. And I'm smart enough to know that. So even if I don't think it's Kate, it's better for my game to say Kate, Kate, Kate,
Yep.
than to say nobody. Because when Dan's not saying anybody, so it's like, I don't understand why he just doesn't say.
Like, a
I
faithful wouldn't do that, right? Like, a
don't
faithful
know.
would be like trying to figure it out more.
Yes.
And I understand the way he's saying, like, hey, listen, when I take my shot, that's how it means something. But like, I don't think this group care. Like, I don't know.
No, no.
At this point, it should be anybody but you. You should be playing
Yeah.
the Sandra game almost.
Literally. And I think that's true. I think that's what it is at this, in the game in general. When you're faithful, it is almost like anybody but you. So
Yeah.
the fact that Dan doesn't want to take a shot at anyone seems a little bit suspicious. I don't know why Dan just doesn't say John, for the love of God. Like,
Right. Like,
John's not.
somebody.
Yeah, like
Parv even said that. Parv was like, let's just kill John because he did write
yeah,
your name down and he doesn't have a shield.
right, exactly. So I don't know why, and I don't know why Dan doesn't just kind of say somebody's name. And again, I really think it was a bad game move for them to let the faithfuls have the whole shield side by themselves. Peter is messing up the plan, but it's a good plan. I wish Peter executed it better. But I think that it's a good plan because they need to, that's another clue for them to figure out if the traitors take a shot and they miss, if they go try Fergie and they miss because he has a shield, then they're going to know that the traitors were on that side, right? Because if the traitors were in the group with the faithfuls, they can, all the faithfuls now can automatically say, we know we're all 6 of us are good. Like we're literally, was it 6 or 8, whatever it was, they're all good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the traitors would have known, you know.
Yeah.
So that's like a huge advantage for the faithfuls now if the traitors take a shot, and so the traitors should have taken a shot at someone that was in the house.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure based on how Phaedra says, like, oh, this one's tough for me. I feel like it's Bergie. I feel like it's going to get blocked. And then all eyes are on Parv, Dan, and CT because apparently those were the names that Peter told. He might have told more people, to be honest, but I think those are the people that are
John told everyone.
Yeah.
Looked like he told everyone.
That's true. He like went a little too far. It's like you had a good idea, but then execution.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so this is how I'm thinking about it. If Dan doesn't take a shot next episode, he's banished immediately. If he takes a shot at a faithful and is wrong, he goes out the next episode. If he takes a shot at a traitor and it's obviously right and he gets people on his side to vote, like let's say it's Phaedra, he might buy himself a little bit more time because he at least got a traitor. So I think the only way to do this is he has to call out a traitor next episode, right?
He has to call out a traitor, and I think he has to plant the seed because
don't wait for the round table. There's not enough time.
No. And I think also, I don't think that he can, I don't know the traitor rules. So like, I just don't know what they're allowed to say and how they're allowed to say it. But I don't think he can just straight up call the traitors out at the round table. So I think he needs to be putting suspicion on them without putting suspicion on them. But if I was him, I think I would, instead of going after Phaedra, I would take a shot at Parvati, because I think even though Parvati is probably more likely to have his back than Phaedra, I think she's safer as a shield for him because Phaedra still has so many people in the game that like her. I don't think she's going to go home. So it's like, if you can get out Parvati and already Phaedra's screaming, nobody likes you, Parvati, then like
that was wild too.
Right? That was so great. It was amazing television. But if nobody likes Parvati, as Phaedra says, then call out Parvati, get Parvati out as a traitor. Dan leads the troops on that one. If Dan leads the troops on that one, people are more likely to trust him as a faithful than, you know, I mean, then and Phaedra and him would both be good. I think like that's what I think he should do, because if he calls out Phaedra, I think she has her group
numbers.
Like she has her numbers. People like her. Like it's obvious that she has a group of people that will do anything for her. They believe her 100%. And now that Tamara's gone, that I think cements it for them, because they're like, she would never murder, you know, housewife. And it cements it for them because she has her friends and she's in there. Don't go after us, you know, after the housewives, talking about that. Like they trust her. Like, so I think she's just, I think it's a big mistake if he takes a shot at her.
You just convinced me, because I actually was thinking the opposite, but now you're totally right, because Parvati already has heat. I don't think Parvati has as many numbers as Phaedra does. The thing he has to do, though, is get Phaedra on board before the round table, because Phaedra does not like surprises, as we've learned.
That's true. No, you're right. That's true. So, I wonder, and they had talked about it in the beginning, so I wonder if Phaedra would have been okay with that moving forward.
Well,
I bet she
Parvati
could.
did call her out, so
Right. And then Dan
Parvati,
could
no one
just
likes you.
right, exactly. And Dan could just put that whole thing on Poverty saying like, hey, I just want to let you know too, like he's been telling me that we're gonna have to get and like I don't want to get rid of you, but this is what's going on. So we gotta get her out. She's too dangerous. She let it go to her head, whatever. Like, you know,
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
then Dan
he has to take a big swing.
right. He had to. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in episode 6, but I don't think he's gonna try. I think he might take a swing and miss, and I think it's gonna do him in.
I mean, yeah, that's why he has to try to get a traitor because otherwise he's done anyway. He has like one, maybe 2 episodes left. Again, I don't know anything. I'm guessing,
Right.
but
No, from the way that it looks, because everyone's on to him. I agree.
yeah.
Because of the way it looks, because everyone's on to him. I agree. He has like left before anyone is like really on to him, and they just get rid of him just to get, because it's like one of those things where you can sit around the table, and if everyone's coming for you every week, eventually they're just going to say, sorry, we're going to vote you out just because you're the name that comes up every single week, so we're just sorry, like you have to go. That's what happened to Michael, and it was like we were just like, sorry Michael, I don't even think you're a traitor, but like because there's so much suspicion on you, we're just going to throw it out there and see if you are. So Dan,
Yep.
yeah, if Dan does put Poverty out in front of him and could get Poverty out, he could stay for longer. So
Yeah.
he might do it. He's smart. He is smart. He's Dan, so he's a good gamer. But I just hope he doesn't let the heat like get to him too much, because I think the whole fact that he's even willing to take a shot at Bergie is showing that he's starting to just get too concerned about, like, he's not seeing the game in the long run. He's almost just like playing just to stay safe.
Yeah. I don't think morally he has any issue going after Parvati. I think he knows he's just
Right.
trying to like strategically figure out, but I think you're right. I think Parvati is probably the move. It's just a matter of will he do it. I also thought it was interesting that Kate already knew. I don't know if you caught this when she was like, well, I'm not going to take a drink of wine from Parvati.
Yeah, that was so weird.
So people must be still thinking about Parvati and that drink. If
Right.
Kate already knows and Kate's been there for 5 minutes.
Right. No, you're
Right?
totally right. And if Kate knew that and she's been there for 5 minutes, then that's another reason why Dan and Phaedra could both go after Kate or go after Parvati. And
Yep.
I think that because of that, that is like a big red flag on her game. So people are obviously talking about it. And you're right. If Kate knows, then that should have been Dan's other signal. Because was Kate in the room? She was in the room with Phaedra and someone else, right?
Yeah, I should have written this down. It was like some of the girls. I don't know which ones they were.
MJ, Phaedra, and Cherie, maybe
Something like that.
something like that. But yes, I picked up on it, and then I forgot about it. But you're 100% right, because she literally says, "I'm not taking a drink from Poverty. Drink from your own wine glass or something." So,
Hmm. Do you think Sandra knows Parvati's a traitor? What do you think about that?
I don't think we get enough of Sandra's, like, maybe she does, but we don't know because we don't see Sandra a lot.
Yeah.
So I just don't know like what she's really thinking, because the times that we do see her, she's not really talking about Poverty at all. So I
Yeah, I
don't.
know. There's just not enough screen time. We need like a longer episode or something because we're missing a lot.
Do you watch the after show?
I've watched the first few. I don't think I watched last week's, but
Okay. I've been watching all of them. So I watched up to episode 4.
okay.
But like we get a lot from the people that are leaving, and we get a lot of tea from the Traitors. So I think right now the Traitors aren't really suspecting Poverty aren't really suspecting Sandra, and Sandra's been in the group with Phaedra, Cherie. She's in that group with the Bravo people. So I think that they're like not really talking about her.
Sandra's playing both sides right now. She's sucking up to the
Yeah.
Bravo women, which is super smart, and
So
she still has that gamer sort of connection.
Yep.
So I like where she's sitting right now. This is like classic Sandra, but like no one seems to be looking at her, so she's doing a good job.
I agree. And it's interesting to me because they keep saying that Dan doesn't talk, but I don't feel like we see Sandra talking a lot. So maybe we're missing that whole piece of her personality. But I know from watching Sandra on the other shows, she just talks when she needs to, you know?
Mm.
And so her as a faithful she's playing a really good faithful game because she's safe. And I think that nobody's really wants to murder her and nobody really wants to. I mean, they do talk about murdering her, how it would be just like not a big deal, but she hasn't gotten murdered yet. So
Yeah, when Dan was in the turn and he was saying like, "Oh, that MJ's a waste, Sandra's a waste," I almost does he mean because they'll get banished? They don't need to murder them.
that's what I think that's what I think he's saying. Because Dan's looking at it like what's going to take the heat off of them if they need to go after someone, which is smart because that's how I would think as a traitor. Who can I pin being a traitor on? Because you have to make sure that you're safe too as a traitor. And if everyone's like 100% faithful, team faithful, nobody thinks that they're not, then it's a waste for the traitors because they need to keep around people that they could, pin being a traitor on.
Okay, well,
So
something
Sandra's
also
enough to think that for people to think she could be a traitor.
Yeah, I think you're right. Something else I wanted to ask you about because I think is interesting is Peter keeps talking about has to be a guy, has to be a guy. There's only a few guys. When you were playing, I'm sure this was going through your mind of like how many men, how many women, how many reality people. So like if you're in there on this season and you're not a traitor, I have to imagine you would assume a Big Brother Survivor person is a traitor, right? Like one of them.
Yeah, I would have actually. I kind of think I would think it was CT. I would always assume Dan. He would be my first choice, but CT would be my second biggest choice because Johnny got murdered the first episode. So for me, I would think CT would go after Bananas because it makes sense that, I watched the challenge.
Yeah.
And they're kind of frenemies. So I would assume that would be a CT move. But I think I would always assume Dan was a traitor. And I would have to be convinced that it was too obvious to be Dan for me to not think it was Dan. But yeah, I'm thinking 100% someone from either Big Brother Survivor or the challenge. One of those are traitors. I would never assume Trishelle was a traitor. So that's why another reason it's like I'm narrowing it down to CT or Poverty Sandra. Because I don't see them picking Janelle as a traitor. I just don't think it would happen. And I feel like I think I told Janelle that too. I was like, I don't think they'll pick you as a traitor. I think you'll be a faithful. But Dan always could be Dan, Poverty, Sandra. I mean, come on. One of them.
Yeah. Honestly, the picks for me on the production side were perfect. Like Dan was born to be a traitor. Maybe you don't think he's good at it, but like that's his person. Like it was perfect. And same thing with Parvati. Whereas like Janelle, I knew she would be a fun faithful. Like Janelle wants to sniff people out. Like so I like how they set it up. I like who they picked.
I like it too. And I think that they picked the right people. And I also really liked that they picked Phaedra and Dan to pick the third person. Yeah. Because I thought that was a genius twist. I really like how you never know how many traitors there are because you kind of assume there's going to be 3 or 4, but then like they pick 2, right, to start. Mm-hmm. So these kids don't know if there's like 5 out there. Like they know they recruited. Did they pick 3 and there's a 4th one? I would be shaking in my boots because I'm like, how are we so bad? If there's like possibly 4, I think I would be convinced there was 4, and then where there's 4 now, there's like 12 of them left or something, right? Like I would just be like, we are really bad.
The game's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the UK version, there's 4. But I'm curious to know, like, do you think, or who do you think should be recruited? Let's say if Parv, Dan, or Phaedra goes out, do you think they'll recruit, and who do you think will be recruited or should be?
Oh gosh.
Any guesses?
I would recruit. I mean, I think I would probably recruit CT because Phaedra already likes CT, which might make her not want to recruit him because she already has such a good relationship with him.
Can we talk about that real quick? Are they both single? I kind of ship that relationship.
I love it. Me too. I don't know. I saw a clip on Andy Cohen where she said that she was the closest to CT out of anyone. And like they jokingly said that she said that that's her boyfriend, but like it was just a joke. I think CT just got divorced, so he's technically single. So I don't know.
I knew he was single. I didn't remember. I haven't watched Housewives in a minute, so I don't know Phaedra's situation. But I was like,
single, but I don't know if like
cute.
I don't know if they're just like they're really good friends and they like love each other, or if they like actually have crushes on each other.
Yeah, that was
but
funny.
I wonder if I'm Phaedra, I wonder if I'm thinking, do I want him? She genuinely has a relationship with him. Like you can tell from the show that she really likes him. They have a lot of good conversations. So I'm wondering if you at that point put someone in there that's you have a good relationship with, or do you keep them for faithful? I don't know. I think an emotion probably wants to bring your friends into the secret that you're in, right? But then I know that she puts her emotions aside a lot because she's obviously a good gamer. And she's a good businesswoman. So I'm wondering if like, because of that, she says she doesn't want to mix that, you know? So, yeah. But if it was me, if I didn't pick CT, I wouldn't pick Trishelle. I don't think I would pick. See, I would never go for a Peter or Bergie, knowing that I think that they would say no. I don't think they would want to be recruited. Kevin is just like has the worst reads. I don't think Sheree has good reads. Maybe MJ. Maybe.
Okay. And MJ's someone who has had heat before, so you can kind of push her in the front.
100%. Like, yeah, exactly. Because then you can just like right away get rid of them. The only other person you could just automatically get rid of would be a Sandra. But the problem is that if you bring Sandra in with Poverty and Dan, and then you're Phaedra, like that's just too much. I just don't think it's just, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. So if they recruit again, or if one of them are gone and I'm Phaedra, if it's Poverty or if it's Dan, I'm Phaedra, and I get to have the upper hand, I'm going to pick someone to be on my side because, like I said, I really think she's like the third wheel in this traitor turret.
They're making her feel like she might be getting her way, but like they're making all the decisions. I think it's clear, I don't disagree with you there. I'm curious, Rachel, how do you think you would be as a traitor?
I would love to. I probably would be horrible, but I don't know. Maybe I'd be good. I could probably do the lying part, but I think I would start to have problems when I had to get rid of people I care about because I'm not very good. I'm so emotional and I wear my heart on my sleeve that I'm not as good of like not showing emotion. So I think if someone got murdered that I was like really good friends with, I don't know if I would be able to handle it. But I think it would be fun. I mean, I would like to do it. I would like to try.
Well, I like the self-awareness because I can relate. Yes, I think I would be I don't think I could handle it emotionally, but I like that you know that. You know what I mean? You embrace it. Well, that's fun. So who, I guess, as we start to wrap up here, like who's impressing you the most? Who do you think will be safe at least for the next few episodes or might go far? Any predictions?
Is my pick to win right now. I think she's playing a really great game. She is the traitor that we didn't even know we needed. And I can't imagine this season without her being a traitor, without her narration and her reads and her, quotes at the roundtables and like just everything. She's so great. I think that we're seeing like Trishelle is kind of like in the middle. So she might make it pretty far. She could get murdered. I don't know. But like, I think Poverty and Dan are in trouble because there's a lot of heat on them. Now that Kate's in the game, I wonder how that's going to go because Kate is such a wild card. Like we just don't know if Kate will play like big and she learned her lessons from last season, or if she's going to be the same Kate with like the bad reads and like, I don't know. Like, Kate made a lot of mistakes last season as a faithful too. And she doesn't care. Like when she makes a mistake, she doesn't. Like, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. It's kind of a wild card. So, but then, I mean, I think Peter and Bergie are just so faithful that they're going to get murdered because nobody's going to be like, oh, they're definitely a traitor, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
What about
I don't
John? I feel like he's gonna go far for some reason.
I always forget about him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
People forget he's
yeah.
even there.
Yeah, he's on the show. So yeah, he could go far. People seem to get over the asthma, whatever his asthma story was. So I think because of that, maybe he could go far and people like him and it feels like they do like him.
Yeah, now they've turned around. I think he had a
Yeah.
first, bad first episode, but then he was fine.
Yeah.
Any other Big Brother or reality stars you'd like to see play the Traitors?
God, I would love Taylor Hale. I mean, I think she would be really fun on the show, especially after we saw her really bring it in reindeer games. Everyone was like, Taylor's just got
She's so
helped on.
nice.
Right, exactly. And it was like, no, on reindeer games, she brought it. Like, she was fun. She's fun to watch. I think she's strategic. I really enjoy her. I think Kelly Wentworth would be fun
Yes.
from Survivor. Who else? I mean, I would love to see my sister.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun. And I think Alyssa is totally different than I am. So she would either do really well or I think they probably won't make her a traitor. She'll probably be faithful. She'll probably do well as a faithful.
Hmm.
Um, as far as like other, I mean, are we doing like winners? I don't know. Like, I think it should definitely be Big Brother, big people that, you know, like Daniel Reyes maybe would be fun. I bet she would be really good. Of
Would love
course,
to
like,
see her.
Big Brother legends. We have Dr. Will, but apparently he's too cool.
Yeah, so what do you think
He
about
just
this whole
cameos.
thing? Yeah,
I don't
what do
know.
you think about this? So
I think that
random.
I bet they like asked him to do the show and he was like, I'm not gonna play, but I will come and do a spot or something, you know.
Yeah.
He said
That's gonna
that
be
he
interesting.
yeah, and it will be interesting. He said he won't play the game again. Um because or any of these like competition shows because apparently you know him. I think he said this in your interview. It's like the teacher schooling a bunch of kids or something, whatever it was that he said. He's the master.
Yeah.
So that's always, I think it's funny. He's pretty self-aware, but I think he's not self-aware enough. I think he would get targeted immediately, which is really why he doesn't do the games because he's going home.
No comment, but I don't disagree with you, Rachel.
Yeah.
You're probably right. It'll be fun to see, well, depending on who's there still, because like I don't know who actually even watches Big Brother from this cast, so who knows. And I do want to ask you, because like a lot of people were bummed to not, speaking of reindeer games, were bummed that you weren't there. Would you be interested in doing it? I feel like it's perfectly made for you, Rachel.
I know. I was so sad. Maybe it'll be another season. And I think they picked it up for another season. So I would
Yep.
love to do it. I mean, look, I'm wearing red sequins now. Like I am the sequin Christmas queen. And I'm really good at competitions. I'm good at strategic games. So we'll see, maybe they'll if it comes back around, hopefully they'll ask me.
Yeah, I mean, come on, CBS. And then also like this winter season, that it could have happened. They could have done this if they just did it, but I guess we got to wait longer.
I know. What with the Winter Legends? I really
Like,
wanted to see that.
yeah, something. I feel like, it's going to cost them a little bit more upfront, but as
Yeah.
we see with Peacock, if you're willing to pay, people are, and it's not a long season, people are willing to do it. So it's
People
like,
get really excited about it too. And I think like one thing that Paramount is missing is that show that brings all the people together, like the Traitors. And Paramount is missing that where like I mean, they have the challenge and they tried the Challenge USA, but they just kept it. If they brought maybe other shows into the Challenge USA, then I think like maybe more people would get excited about it. And they want to see, I mean, the challenge is hard. So like you're not going to necessarily see
it's all like a lot of it's physical.
very physical. Yeah, it's very physical. So I think it's like with the Traitors, it's more strategic. So you have a lot of range of the players you can ask. So I'd love to see Paramount Plus bring something like, with everyone.
Me too. Well, Rachel, it was lovely catching up with you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy you did this because you honestly like really opened my eyes to some things I didn't even think about. This is why I needed you on the podcast because you've done the
Right?
show.
Oh, and speaking of which, I was going to say too, I think it would be fun if Peacock did like a challenge with all of their Bravo and Peacock people, because not the challenge, but like,
Yeah, like something.
yeah, like more competitive games. Cause I saw Tamara post something about the housewives doing a competition show together and how fun it was to watch the housewives just on the Traitors. So I do think that is actually a really interesting dynamic too. I mean, look, I'm from the Traitors. Bring me on as one of those girls.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I could
I interesting to see that.
I could also see them doing like Traders All Stars in like a couple years or whatever. So you'll probably get a call for that. I'm sure it'll be like you, Janelle, and Kate.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, I heard also they want to do an international Traitors. So
Okay.
that would be, I think that would be really fun. I would really love to see, because the Traitors in the other countries are so different.
Yeah, I've been watching some of them. Some of them
Yeah.
are better. Some of them are not as fun.
Right.
I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah, I do enjoy the UK one. I
Me too.
enjoyed Australia. I watched like as much as I could from the Dutch one. That was the first one that I watched because I watched it before my season came out.
That's the original. Yeah.
The original, yeah. So I love the format. I love the players that play it and how different it is in every country. I think it's very interesting.
Me too. Okay, now I'm on board with that. I would love to see kind of like the best players from every,
Right.
iteration.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they all play differently. So it would be a really interesting like mashup to see how everyone comes together because they've all played their games, which will be so different.
Yep. I like this. All right. Well, anything else? Any other thoughts on Traitors, Rachel, before I let you go?
I don't think so.
Well, you are so fun to talk to. I mean, we text all the time about the show, but like it's nice to hear your insight because it's fun. And I'm so bummed to see Janelle go. That was a bummer.
Too. I know, I agree. I mean, I feel like we'll be seeing Janelle on plenty of other things, which
Yeah.
I'm excited about, but like I know I was really looking forward to seeing her stay longer. She's honestly one of my favorite from this season. I think she really, the way that she went for the shields and the way that she played the game, and she was so confident and outspoken. It's exactly what you want to see in a faithful.
I agree. And I say put Brittany Haynes in as the next faithful.
Oh yes, Brittany would be fun too. Yes. Brittany would be very
I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel, for the listeners. Please like and subscribe as usual. I'll be back next week with another recap and hopefully an interview. I'm trying to get an interview with Janelle. I mean, Janelle and I have talked about it. It's just a matter of it's just Peacock that needs to set it up. So we'll make it work. But yes, thank you again, Rachel.
Yay, thank you.